everyone, it's Jean. I'm here today for Mixed Media Monday, and I wanted to share with you just a quick little project, something that I've been working on that I feel like has really just been kind of a relaxing, fun thing to do. And what I'm doing then I will be using in a future journal. So I got some images on Etsy, and the creator, and let me move this up a little bit so you can see creator, designer. Her name is J. Lee Liu, and she has a lot of interesting digitals that she makes. I have several of hers. But what I loved about these girls is that, first of all, they have the coolest expression and the eyes are amazing. But I chose just a few of them here today that I wanted to show you. And this is a fun thing to do with any digital that you get. When you get that digital, you can put your specific spin or touch onto them, kind of make them yours in a sense, because you're maybe coloring them or you're using watercolors, which is what I'm going to be using today. And let me just show you this one here. And this is beside the original. So I colored her blouse with some purple, and I did the flower here, gave her some eyeshadow, did her lips, and did some just a little bit of, kind of like simulating the ruching here of her bodice part, and then some of the pleats or folds that would be on the sleeve. And then, of course, I colored her hair, her flower in her hair. So there's different ways that you can approach this. You can just do their eyes and their lips if you want to. You can just do the clothing. I like to look at each individual girl that I'm going to be working on. And sometimes I just see what they need to kind of brighten up their face. So this is the first one that I showed you. The second one, she's a little bit more painted, if you will. So if I hold this up, you can see her eyes. I outlined those, her lips. She has this big flower arrangement in her hair, and I made a little bird. And then I had some pearlescent watercolors that I fixed her necklace with, and I did do some light shading down here with a peachy color. So this is all done with watercolor, and this is just cardstock. It's not anything special. So with this, you would find that it is not watercolor paper. So when you apply the watercolor, which we'll see in a little bit, it kind of just sits on top of the paper, and then you let it dry and it absorbs in. This is one that I did. She's much more defined. She has darker eyes, and she has the rosy cheek. A lot going on up here, which I love all this. So that's cool. And then this one, I kept her a little bit more demure, as they say. I don't know if demure is supposed to be less or more, but it's a cool word. This one has a tealy blouse, and I used some of that pearl on there. You can see it a little bit. And on her neck piece, her lips are done. Her eyes are done, but they're done underneath to try to give her a green eye. And then, of course, this little rose that she has in her flappy hat. But I opted not to do the hat. I just think simply done like this is one of my favorite ones too. So those are the three that I've done so far, and I'll do a couple with you. And what I do after I'm finished with these, coloring these, and you can actually do this either prior to or after, I do tear them around the edges. I don't like the straight edges, so I do tear them. And what I do is I try to make them look more vintage by tearing them. And then what I will do is take a brown ink. Right now I have brushed corduroy on my desk, and I'll just go around the edges then of the part that I've torn off. And it's okay if it cuts into the image a tiny bit, because we're making these look like they are kind of raggedy and old. So I'll tell you, yesterday when I was doing this, I was like, I wonder what these would look like if I burnt them around the edges. So I was sitting here and I was burning them around the edges, and I will tell you they look really cool. So here's one that I did. But I don't suggest burning things in your craft room or your art studio unless you have a dedicated place for that, where you can like dunk something if you need to in water, because, you know, as soon as you put a match to this, it's going to go up pretty quick. So I got scared a couple times and was blowing things out. And, you know, when you stoke a fire, or you're trying to get a fire to start, you blow on it, so it was like making bigger flames. I should have recorded that. But anyway, they do look quite amazing burnt as well. So I may do some more like this, but I may have either my husband do it or do it outside or over the sink or something like that. So those are the ones that I've done so far. And as I mentioned, I'll just give you a rough idea. This corduroy I've had forever and a day. So let's see how it looks. As far as brushes for this, if you're going to be doing the lips and the eyes, you need a kind of a tiny brush, but one that has kind of a firm tip, unless you are really good with painting and you know, your hand's steady. That's the problem I have. I don't have a very steady hand, so I have to use a brush that has a stiffer type of bristle to it. But once you ink this up, they look really nice. They're really cool. You can put them on a page, make a tag out of them, do all kinds of fun things. So I will be using these in a journal coming soon. So that's how the finished piece will look after I ink around the edges. So let's go ahead and get to some actual painting. Now, let me see. I think I was going to use this one right here. I like this lady. For some reason, my machine, my printer, wanted to print on both sides. I don't know what was up with that. So we can look at this one and look at this one. I kind of look at the eyes because I want to be able to accentuate the eyes. So I think I'm going to stay with this girl. And let's see what this one is like. Yeah, so now this one has darker eyes, so it's kind of harder to highlight those. So I will definitely use this one on the front. And then I just really like this one because she's so, she looks pale and she doesn't have all that fancy stuff going on in her hair. So the brushes that I have, this one was pretty good. I'm going to see if I have any that are tinier. I think I may have a teeny tiny one. And these are just cheap brushes. As far as the number, it's a number 2. It just says artist brush. But the reason I really don't buy expensive brushes because I'm not an artist like that where I know what I'm doing with watercolor. I just kind of copy what I've seen before. So let's look at this. She has this pretty neck scarf, so we could do that. And why don't we start in like a lavender, or I'll make some of my purples wet because we can always mix the colors if we need to. But this lavender is pretty. I'm going to put it on here because the water is really sitting on top, and you can't, when it's super wet like that, you don't get as good of a coverage because it's so wet and it dilutes the color, at least in my experience. Let me make sure I have a paper towel handy. So to do this, you need, of course, your images, some watercolors. You don't need to have anything expensive. And you can use a paper towel or a rag because you'll sometimes need to wipe your brush off. And of course, you want to have some water available. So I have this little squeeze bottle where I just squeeze it in on the colors I'm going to use. And then I have a jar over here that I can also use. So let's see how wet this is or rich this is. I sometimes like to do the colors very lightly because I want the image of the clothing to still show through, so I can get a sense of where the lines are and the folds in the clothing. That way it just looks like it's been colored. If you've ever seen vintage photographs that they have colored, that's basically what we're doing here, is just coloring the photograph and giving it a little bit of life. So put a little bit of this over here. I'm using this tiny brush for the clothing, and I probably should be using a bigger one. And then it'll cover the area better. Okay. So we have this really pretty purple neckerchief. Handkerchief. I love that purple. And so we'll try to match the facial features with similar to what the hair color, not the hair color, but the clothing color is. Let's see, what else does she have? It looks like she has a little bow over here. So for that, I'm probably going to go in with just a light purple, just so it's not as stark as the purple I was using on the neckerchief. So it'll still show up as a pretty purple ribbon, but it won't detract from anything. Okay, so for her lips, I'm going to take some mauve-y purple and I'm going to mix it in with this. It's going to be very dark. So let me let me just take some of it off so that it's not too crazy. And then we're just going to highlight her lips. So let me bring this forward for you so you can see a little bit better. But you see, I've done her lips and done her neckerchief and then her little ribbon she has in her hair. So I'm going to keep her pretty just simple. I'm going to go around the edge of this neckerchief just with this other purple color to kind of tie it in. And that way we have some variation in color too for highlights and things like that. So there's my one girl. I'm going to let her dry because I'm not sure if I'm going to do anything else to her. Okay, now this one, she has this beautiful ribbon in her hair, and she has a sheer dress on that looks like it has an open back, and that's really pretty. So let's let me clean this off, and let me get my other one here. I'm not sure what color it has on it. Probably just dirty water. So for me, it's handy to have a couple different brushes, and that way you can rinse the other ones well or change, because for here I'm doing a much larger area, so I can use a larger brush. So I'm going to, for this one, use like a tealy color, and I'm going to put a little drop of water right here because I have this pretty color that's already on here, and I can add some other color to it and change it if I want to. I can darken it up if I want to. So I'm going to do her bow in this pretty blue. And with this one, with this kind of coloring that you do, like I said, you kind of want to be able to see where the lines are for the actual piece of clothing that you are coloring, because then when you go back after the watercolor has dried, you can still see some of the lines. And that's important, especially if they have flowers in their hair, or if you want to go back and add flowers to their hair, because you'll be able to see where you worked through the color before and where the placement should be. So there is that young lady and her hairpiece. And I'm going to take the color of the bow, and I'm going to move that color down into the dress part, but I want it to be very sheer. So I'm using a lighter blue. I get a little bit of water. Using a little bit lighter blue. Seeing if I can lighten this up at all. The more water you have on your brush, the lighter it's going to come out too. So as you can see here, I'm just kind of brushing the color on. I'm not trying to follow the line, so to speak. I'm just giving it a wash of color to give it a little bit of life into it. So that's her sleeve, and we'll come up here. Let me get this darker teal, and we'll put in the darker teal for the neckerchief. I like how that looks. Let's see where I don't know where my pearly ones went. My pearly ones, I don't see them right offhand. So I'm going to just ignore that for now. Okay. I'm going to add a little bit. I'm always contaminating my white, so excuse me while I do this. And if you can get yourself a little bottle like this or a pipette, it works nice too. All right, it's lightened up a little bit. And so the top, because it'll be a little bit more sheer than the sleeve, and then down here she has the rest of her dress. And I'll just put a little bit over there. She looks beautiful. And that's what I love about this. Just put that wash of color on it and make it into a style of your own. You don't have to be someone who knows how to watercolor. You just are having fun. Now, I'm going to color her eyes, and I'm going to use a pink for that. I think this is my small one. Let me see. Okay. I'm going to use a pink, light pink, for her eyes. So what I do is I start at the lid and just lightly add the color. Now see that, as you can tell, was probably a little bit wetter than it should have been, but it's okay. Let me see if I can take my paper towel roll, and I'm just going to press on this, and it'll bring it up, and then I can add a little bit darker. So, as per my original disclaimer, I'm not a watercolorist, but I do know how to dab with a paper towel roll. Okay, there we go. So that'll dry a little bit darker. And then I'm just going to give her lips that are the same color. I don't know if you guys do this, but I kind of move my paper around so I can see better. She looks so pretty. They're already so beautifully made, but it's so nice to be able to just take a moment and color them and add your own personal touches to them. So this young lady, now this is a nice example because she has some greenery in her hair, and I like her neckerchief she has. So let me get my other brush. And what color? I'm going to use something on the yellow end this time. Kind of goldish. Yellowish, goldish. And I'm going to paint in this first. And I'm going to paint down this part. And then we'll give her an orangey colored ruffle on the bottom. Let me turn her this way. And this is the fun thing too, is, you know, back in the day that these women were probably designed for, I don't know that they wore really beautiful, colorful things. And so this is your opportunity to make these the way you want them to be. So, okay. So I have green in here, and then those two look like they may be roses. So I have orange. Let me put on some green here. It's going to turn more of a orangey green, and I wanted more of a dark green, so let me add some dark green to it and see what happens. Okay, so just going to go in, and where I can tell that they kind of look like leaves, I'm just going to paint them green. And I'm going to use this darker green just for around this area here. Usually roses have a darker green leaf. Put some of the green over here. And there she has. And since we did orange, what would be a good matching color for the roses? We could do those. We could actually do those in orange too if we wanted to. How about a orangey red? A salmon color would be pretty. So let's go ahead and do these with, I want more red in it, I think. More red. There we go. So I'm going to paint this red or orange. Hopefully it'll show up as a red or orange. And then over here, this one, I'm just imagining what these would be, but I'm thinking if I were a young lady of this time, I would definitely have roses in my hair, right? Okay, let me activate this color because I like this color. It's kind of a salmony, pinky color, but I like it because I think it will be an excellent color for her eyes and her lips. So let me see if I can get this to work and not require paper towel adjusting. I love how these are designed too, that they actually give you a lid that you can color. I sometimes go all the way up, just depends on what you like. And then we'll mix these two colors together and see if we can get a pretty lip color for her. We will pretend that her hair is red and that she can wear orange lipstick, because not everybody can. Not everybody can wear an orange lipstick. Orangey. Anyway, I think I might have some, but my hair was originally brunette. Now it's just gray. Okay, I love that. Now, I haven't done any of the hair yet. So since we were talking about her being a redhead, do I want to attempt this or not? Maybe not, but I am going to use some of this to color down here, just to give her a little bit more definition, and color her blouse. And again, I'm not using a large enough paintbrush. I don't want that color in it. So a very simple way for you to take some vintage digitals that you either purchase or make yourself and just kind of, oh, I got a huge water stain on that. Dang, go on. What are we going to do there? Let me see. Things like this do happen. So let's see if we can remedy this by making a big rose or flower down here, just so we don't see the watermark. I don't know how that happened. I wasn't paying attention. So now, like for something like this, where I went in and I just free-handed something, I'll wait till it dries, add a little bit of an accent to it, and then I will probably use a fine liner and outline that a little bit. So the color that we have kind of matches the roses here at the top, so it should be fine. Doesn't look too bad. I love her eyes and lips. Okay, so that is an example of you being able to make these your own. Let's look at our first girl, who we did in purple. She has a little watermark on her, too. What was I doing? Let me see. Okay, so I'm going to... You know, this is not going to bother me because I'll probably just cut her off right there. I think that will be fine. I'm just going to do her eyes because I think she does need a little bit something else to brighten her up. And it's starting to get darker, so I can't see very well. Very cool. So we did brighten her up a lot by putting on that color. So that, let me show you the three that we did. Let me move this because I need to wipe off some of that wet before I put it back in. Okay, so here we have Violet, and she has a violet neckerchief, a little violet or lavender headband and her eyes. And then here we have the blue girl, and she has blue with a pinkish lip and eyes. And this is a bluey teal look. She looks really nice. If I can find my pearlescent ones, I'll go over that a little bit. And then the last girl we have is this one. You see, this is not dry yet, so I'm going to have to wait a little bit. But let me just show you based on this. She has how that orange looks on her eyes. She looks really nice. Now you can go back in with a fine liner around their eyes if you want to and give them like winged eyeliner, or you can define the eyes more. You can go back in and add other elements. So let's say, for example, on this one, I wanted to add something, some sheer fabric or something, or maybe a little tiny piece of lace right here. You can add other things to these for the mixed media part of it in order to bring these girls to life. I'm trying to see if I have anything tiny. Actually, let me see. Where are my scissors? Okay, this is like a little rose that came off of a piece of lace. So I'm going to add this right here. Let me see where my other glue is. I have too much stuff. Too much stuff. Okay, we can try using this and see if it'll cooperate. It may. Something's coming out. So we'll put that right there on her neckerchief. That looks cute. And I was going to see if I have, I know I have some flowers that are I should have painted some, but I didn't. I don't have any that I've done that small, so I can't say that I know where any would be. Just give me a moment here, having a little fiasco. Okay, so I know I had some really cute, some cutie patootie ones, but I don't see it. I don't see them. So let me look here. These. Actually, this orange one might work, but I didn't really want that exact color. Oh boy. Okay. Let's try that one and see how it looks. See whether it will be sufficient. These are sometimes doubled up, so let me see really quick. That actually looks pretty good, so let me just put a dollop of this glue right here. Make sure you guys can see. And I'm going to use a little tiny piece of lace from the flowers, and I'm going to lay that right here. Let me do it this way. And then put this here. And I'm going to use, I'm not sure if I have any tiny, teeny tiny centers. Let me see. It does not appear that I have any right at this juncture. Look in my stash. mustache. I actually have some pink thread. I'm wondering if I can just make a little knot on top of a knot. Where is the glue? The glue. Okay, so this is one of these things that I'm doing on a whim. I'm going to add this. I need a tweezer, I think. Now I know I have tweezers. Where did they? Let me see. Man, I have too many little things of things. Okay, I'm just gonna use my pokey tool. And I'm gonna put this down right here where the knot is and kind of just go around and hold this down and go around and hold this down again. There we go. And then hold this down again. And we'll hold this down one more time and just make a little center there. And let me see. I don't know where my tiny snips are, so hopefully these big ones will do the trick. Okay. Then I will take this and I will put it all in the middle. Need a little bit more glue, I believe. I tell you, this beacon glue is really pressing my nerves because it's expensive glue, but it's like a glue that you need to use frequently and right away, because if you don't, it dries up quickly, and that is frustrating. Even though I've tried to make it better by putting on acetone in it, it just doesn't. It's just not the same. But it's okay. Are you guys seeing this? So I'll show it in the close-up in a second. But basically what I'm doing is with the pink thread, I just made a center. So I don't really have, I think it looks more organic this way, but also I don't really have any beads that would be the right color. I don't like to use beads a lot of times unless I'm sewing through it because I don't like the holes to show. So here you can see the little pink center that I made. Goes right on the edge of her hair. You can still see the outline of the orange we put underneath, and then just a little bit of netting or lace. Turned out really cute. So this is how you can then further add things to the pieces to make them look more interesting. I will have to see what I'm going to add to this girl, but this is your mixed media project for Mixed Media Monday. Get yourself some images from J. Lee Lou and give it a try yourself. And I'd love to see them if you decide to do that. And as always, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.